Welcome to Egg Money Quilts. I'm Eleanor Burns. During the 1930s, many weddings were held off because of hard times. If wedding plans proceeded, they tended to be small family affairs and were usually held at the bride's parents' home. While nonetheless, it required much preparation. 2 or 3 women were often hired to prepare and help with the meals. Now, some of the food served was chicken soup with dumplings and chicken with mashed potatoes and gravy. Ooh, we love those chickens. Now, what better gift for the loving couple than a double wedding ring quilt? Well, this is just a beautiful one, made during the Depression years with soft fabrics in the rings. It's just beautiful. Now, the maker joined the rings together with purchased pink and green 4 patches, and typical of the waist knot, want knot era, she used up all the pink and the green in a 2-tone binding for the scallop border. It's just beautiful. This double wedding ring quilt was made with brighter fabrics and larger rings. And oh, there's lots of polka dot fabrics in those wedges. Just a beautiful quilt. Well, everyone knew each other, were very caring. There were always community wedding showers for the newlyweds. A set of handmade pillowcases would be a suitable gift for a couple that could barely afford to set up housekeeping. Ooh, there's that bubblegum pink again right in the center. Now, a table runner, along with a set of Depression glassware, would make any bride happy and bring a smile to her face. I'm going to bring a smile to your face when you see how easy double wedding ring is to make. Join me. Thousands of double wedding ring quilts were made in the 1930s because you could use just the tiniest bits of scraps right here in all those little wedges. Well, we're using 6 different fabrics to make up the arc. There's 4 arcs in each block, and then we need to have a 7th fabric for the corners. Well, the background ends up being a 12-inch block in Sampler 1. All of these are 12-inch blocks. Now, if you're doing Sampler 2, you might want to make a row of 2 wedding ring blocks, or how about 3 going right across that bottom row. They're just so much fun to do. Now, a bride was often given an apron. Oh my gosh, they were learning how to cook even in the 30s. But this apron was made out of a feed sack. It has a border print on it, and you could even do pillowcases out of this particular feed sack, along with this really cute crocheted doily just for the kitchen. Well, I have all 6 fabrics lined up. We are strip quilting the double wedding ring. They are 3-inch by 10-inch strips, 6 in a row, and they're in sewing order. So I'm just going to start. This is 1 and number 2. I'm going to flip number 2 to 1. This is 3 and 4. So 4 goes to 3. This is 5 and 6, and just flip 6 right on top. Now, start up here with this pair and just pull from 1 and 2 straight down, so you've got 1 stack. And this is sewing order. Well, the wedge is in the book, in the Egg Money book, and it's cardboard. You could just put it right on that stack, take a permanent marking pen, and draw around it. But you know me. If I can get an acrylic template to cut these pieces quickly, that's what I want to do. Okay, I have stacks here. I'm just going to cut 1 stack and just turn around and cut that edge off. And then you just turn the ruler. This is very similar to Dresden plate. You just keep on turning them up and down. Now, for 1 block, you need a 10-inch strip. If you're going to do 3, you could just have this whole long 30-inch strip. All right, each one of these stacks is going to make a whole arc. Are you ready? Okay, I'm going to just turn this one around, pick up the top 2. They're in pairs and they are in sewing order. Just use that 1/4-inch seam and you just sew right down along, sewing 1 pair right after the other. You know, in the 1930s, the weddings were usually small. They would have the justice of the peace come by or the minister, and he would marry the couple usually in the bride's home, quite a bit less expensive than they are today. Okay, I've got all 3 pairs sewn, so just clip them apart right now. They should be in sewing order. Now, you could make every single arc identical, or you could just go ahead and mix them up, make them all scrappy, use whatever you want to. All right, so now there's the 3 pairs. We're just going to take this one, flip it right sides together, and then we'll add the 3rd pair to it, one after the other. Well, they would often have, a small gathering, a small dinner right after the wedding with just the close family members. And this was the thing they were afraid of. Oh, the newlywed couple usually didn't have a honeymoon because it was just way too expensive. However, they would have these events at night, the first night, called the horning. Oh my gosh, didn't want to have the horning. You'd keep the door locked for a horning. That's whenever all of the friends would come by, blow horns outside the door, keep that wedding couple awake, just have a great old time. Well, I have the arc already sewn, so I'm just going to turn it wrong side up and press from the right to the left. Now I did that so that I have those seams all set up so that I'm ready for the next step. Well, we're not going to do needle turn here. This is going to be really easy. This is the arc pattern, and I have fusible interfacing. I have plain fusible interfacing. I have the fusible side underneath, the smooth side on top. And you can just go ahead, take your permanent marking pen, trace this on there, and then make sure you mark these little center points right here. Well, you could draw 4 sets for each one, or why not just use the printed? It's all ready to go. Won't take you long at all. Now, once you have the arc done, you cut each one apart. Here it is right here. And you place it so that you center that little notch, that little center, with the center seam right like this. How about some pins in it? And then you just sew on the line. You use a small stitch, use an applique, presser foot, stitch on the line with 18 stitches to the inch. And I've got this one done right here, stitched along on the line. And now I'm just going to take my scissors and trim 1/8 inch away and just zip right along there. Now the seam is pressed so that you can just zip right down these edges. Grab your scissors 1/8 inch away. That's one side. This is much easier than needle turn. Let me tell you, much easier because the raw edges will be turned under and it goes really fast. Just trim it, get rid of these pieces. Now the next tool is just a great tool. It's hemostats. Now these hemostats do not lock inside your arc. So just take on one end, it's left open, and you push it right through. Open your hemostats, grab hold of that fabric. I actually kind of pinched my finger. And then you just roll it along like this. Pull it right side out. Oh, got it. And then just work with this. Press the edges out with your hemostats. And then when you have the edges all pressed out, then take your wooden iron and go like this. Let me finish my other 3 arcs. I'll show you how to finish the block. I turned my arches and I'm just finishing my pressing. Now, if you don't want to use that wooden iron, how about an applique pressing sheet? You just place your arch with the fusible side down. You can just give that arch a shot of steam, press those edges flat, and then they just peel away. I'll tell you, it's magic. Well, I have my background square now. It's 13 inches square, a little oversized, because I like to make everything oversized and then square it up in the end. So So take that 13-inch square and just press it in half one way. Take it and fold it in half the other way. So you've actually got quarter marks in there. Ooh, you are going to love these marks when your block fits together perfectly. Now take this corner template and just place it right in that very corner. That makes sense. Corner template. Draw a diagonal line right across your background and then place that mark right in the center. That mark is going to really save you. You're going to love it. Well, I have one piece that's already marked with all four corners, and I just want to show you how to place those arches. Okay, right here, there's the two little notches. Take the first arch and place it so that it's on the end of that notch right there, and then line up over here on the second arch. Now it's okay if it goes a little bit past that diagonal line, but what you want to do is line up the center seam on the arch with that fold. Told you, it's all going to work out perfectly. And then just give it a shot of seam. Just bear down, and all you're going to do is just turn that block around. Put all four of these in place. And here you thought we were going to do needle turn. Get them in place. Well, you know, it was always great fun. Oh, to go find out where the bride and groom were staying that night, because they had another little prank people would call called a shivery. Well, they'd gather up everything. They'd gather up their newspapers, their old washstands, and their rub things, and they would get their pans, run outside that house, beat on their pan until the newlyweds came out. And then they were invited in. Oh, everybody would congratulate them. There'd be a lot of noise. There'd be a potluck. They'd open their gifts. Oh, merriment for all. And we're merry because this is all pressed down. Turn it over, press it on the back side, and all you have to do now is just stitch right around those outside edges. Well, I have my corners ready. They are 4-inch squares. You need to have 4 of them. Cut them on one diagonal and then press them in half so you've got that crease mark. And that crease mark is going to line up with that little notch we made in the corners. Let me just show you. Let me take one, line it up right with that very center, line up the edges of the triangle with those diagonal lines on your block. Oh, we are rolling. We are ready to go. Okay, use that 1/4-inch seam and just sew it right along there. And just hold those seams flat. And if you're only making one block, you can just keep on turning around like this and just applying those corners as you go. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and trim away this extra background behind. But whatever, you're going to square this block up to 12.5 inches. Got one ready to show you. Let me set that aside. Now, I like to go ahead and draw a diagonal line, matching that line right down through here to the other end. You can do it with your 6x24 ruler. You can mark it with a hair marker. This is a hair marker. Just zip right along there. It won't leave any residue on your block. Or if you want to use chalk, you can just roll that chalk line right along there, because we're going to use that diagonal line to help this get squared up perfectly. Use a 12.5-inch square up ruler. Now go the opposite direction as the diagonal line you drew with your diagonal line on your ruler. The very center point would be 6 1/4 inches. So I'm going to put the center point there and line up as best as I can. Put the corners right out here on the ruler. Looking good. Just do it a little tweaking. All right. And all you need to do now is trim along the right and across the top. And then if you want, if you're on a rotating mat, you can go ahead and turn your whole mat, or pick up your ruler and turn your block so you can just trim on the last 2 sides, up and over like that. Now these blocks are a little bit larger so that you don't have 1/4 inch seams right out here. You'll have a little extra around there. That'll work out just fine. I wanted to show you how the outside edges are finished. They're finished with this blind hem stitch. Oh my gosh, you can hardly even see it. But anyhow, you finish with a bite in the background, and then it's stitch in the background, and then bite right into the arch. Go all around the inside edge first, and then go around the outside edge. Beautiful block and ready for your quilt. The double wedding ring table runner makes a beautiful bridal gift, especially if you add some beautiful depression glass to go along with it. Well, I made this whole top out of fat quarters. Oh, it was so much fun. And then when I was done with the fat quarters for the rings, I cut up all the leftovers into 3-inch strips, pieced them together, and did a scrappy binding. Well, there's beautiful free motion machine quilting inside those rings. Now select a 6-inch free motion, something that's continuous that you can go ahead and do in the center. It's just a great gift. Or if you're really aggressive, go for a whole quilt for the loving couple. Now it's exactly the same technique. You just make more blocks down the center. Well, I want to show you how to put all those pieces together for the table runner. You need to have 3 blocks, and they're actually squared up to 12 inches. So you'll have the 3 blocks in a row. Then you have 8 sets of rectangles. They just have 1 ring on them and 2 corners. And they are going to go along all of the sides and on each end. And that pretty well completes it. All you need to have are corners. Now, if you want to go the easy way, you could go ahead and just do a solid corner. Just a 4 3/4 inch square if you want to have that. Or if you want to put some patchwork in that corner, then start out with a 5-inch square. Now I'll show you how to square both of those up. Well, this was the piece that was 5 inches by 12.5 inches. Well, we want to cut it down to 12 inches. We're making it a little bit smaller. So first we're going to put the 6-inch line right down on that seam in the very center, and then place the 1/4 inch line right here and right here on your corners. Got that all lined up. Got the diagonal line going down along here. It's looking perfect. There's no turning back once you start trimming off these pieces. So cut off the right and the top side. Now turn this the other way, and then one more time put the 6-inch right down through the center, and we're going to trim this to 4 3/4 inches. I've got 4 3/4 inches right here across the bottom, and over on the left 12. And so I'm just going to right side and across the top. Looking good. You're going to make 8 of those. Now the corners are a little trickier. They were exactly the same technique. I did draw that corner on there, put that little mark so I could line it up. Little bit smaller corners because we're making smaller blocks. This time, this patch is squared in 2 different steps. The first step is to take the 6-inch square up ruler and place the ruler so that the 2.5-inch lines are on those edges. Let me see, 2.5-inch lines there and there. And on the outside, it is just about 4 7/8. Let me see. Ooh, that is looking good. So we've got the 2.5-inch there, 4 7/8. Gotta make sure I get this right. Up and around. And then once those 2 sides are done, turn it completely and square it to 4 3/4 inches. Best ruler is this 6-inch square up ruler. Perfect. Now comes the best part. Are these all going to fit together whenever we sew them together? Well, I want to show you right here. We're going to line up these pieces right here. You've got a little V. Let's just see. If we flip this right sides together from the wrong side, we want to take a pin and put it in right through there, peel this back, and then put that same pin right at that seam. Let's see if I can get that right in there like that. Kind of squeeze it together. Now I found out if you can match these points and not worry maybe at the top and the bottom, the outside edges, you can always square up those outside edges if it's not perfect. So you would do assembly line sewing in these rows, but I've already got part of it put together. So let me just see if I can line this up. You can see it's just a little off at one end, but we'll just square that up once we're all finished. Line that up, and when you get to that pin, oh my gosh, hold your tongue, get it right, so you can just sew across. Ooh, good. Got the one match. I'm going to go down to the other match, and you want to line these up. So if you line them up and just look at them, and squeeze them. I'm a finger pinner myself. You might have to do a little bit of stretching in between so that you can hold them down and use your stiletto, get those all matched. You know, my mom always talks about her setting up housekeeping, her wedding gift with her mom. She says in 1941, her grandma gave her $100 so that my dad, Irwin, could buy a bed with her. And she says he put it down on a car. She'll never get over that. Anyhow, perfect match. You can see how that's all lined up just great. Well, go ahead, sew your top together. Don't play any pranks, no hornings, no shiveries. Just get your blocks done. You can make double wedding ring even easier just by making plain arcs. Well, Teresa made this one in solid green arcs and then these shiny gold corners. Ooh, and she did a beautiful job free motion quilting in gold thread in the background. In wall hanging size, it's a perfect gift for a bride and groom, and you can have it done, hopefully, before the wedding. Well, this quilt is as much fun as a picnic. It's just a really cute watermelon quilt. My sister Patty created these charming slices of melon in all these bright pinks and cheery greens. Now, did you know that you can eat the rind too? You know, folks pickle the rind. It's really tasty. Well, 1/8 yard of 6 greens is enough. You just cut them into 3-inch strips and then flip them right sides together into pairs and stack them so that the top pair ends up on the top. Use that wedge, cut them, and sew them together. Ooh, am I fast here? It's gonna look just like this. And then pull out that magical fusible and just place it on your wedges. So both edges, trim it and turn it right side out. Well, we're already halfway there. It's looking really good. Now, pick out 4 of the brightest pinks and reds that you can find. Now, do not go for that flavorless pale pink that's been sitting too long on the grocery shelf. Now, the pattern for that is a 6-inch square. You just cut a 6-inch square of template plastic and then curve it along the top like this. And then trace 2 on each one so that you have a total of 8. Oh, cut them out. There it is. Well, the pink goes in the corner of the 8-inch background square. You just place it there, and then on top goes that green rind. Just fuse it on top, and then you can hand or machine stitch it when you're done. It's that easy. Now, lay out your blocks with your side and corner triangles and set it together. To give it more space at the top, you need to add a 3.5-inch strip and 2-inch strips at the sides. Is looking good. Now the rainbow border is next. You just take those 4 healthy pinks. Ooh, they look really good. Cut them into 3-inch strips and sew them together. And then once your strips are cut, you're going to subcut them into 2-inch segments. All you have to do is just string those together so they go the whole way around the quilt. Well, the seeds are last, and contrary to popular belief, eating watermelon seeds does not cause a watermelon to grow in your stomach. You know, in fact, some cultures take those seeds, bake them, and eat them. But Since these are beads, you better stay away. You can sew them on, or you can just glue them on. That sounds like the easy way. Well, we know how to pick out fabric for a great looking quilt. When you pick out watermelon, you look for the heaviest one, because a good one is 92% water. That's a lot. And you want to look for that creamy yellow spot from where it sat on the ground and ripened in the sun. You know, besides, watermelon's good for you. It's one of the best sources of lycopene, and that's an antioxidant for your body. Well, quilting is good for you too. It's a stress reducer, and it will make you smile. So have a good time in your sewing room.